Thank you all for joining us here at I-80 Sports, where today we have already reached the quarter century mark here in the NHL. We're a quarter of the way through the NHL season, so we got to see who's doing really well, who's doing not so great right now, as well as running down week 6 recap. Guys, thank you for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Make sure that you subscribe down below, youtube.com/I-80 Sports. And while you're here, hit up the comment section down below and let us know what you think so far of your favorite team or least favorite team in the NHL as we have reached the quarter mark in the NHL regular season. Let us know. We want to join the conversation with you. So hit up the comment section. Let us know what you think. And react to the rest of our content as well. Hit the bell notification while you're there so that way you know when our videos drop, it as well as other content on I-80 Sports as well. If you're a sports fan, certainly like I am, we've got NFL, MLS, NCAA football, MLB, everything that you could possibly want at your disposal. Make sure that you hit it up down below, youtube.com/I-80 Sports. And you know what? Yeah, algorithm, while we're at it, drop a like button, drop a like and all that fun stuff, algorithmic like stuff. And if you're on X or Twitter or my face or whatever it's called these days, make sure that you follow us down below at I-80_Sports NHL. And if you follow us already, thank you guys so much for all of your support. We greatly value it. I'm Brian. He's Tom. Tom, there we go, that way. Tom, how you doing today?
Doing well. And here we are at the quarter mark of the season, believe it or not. We are in early December, and it is the quarter mark of the season.
It's really, I feel like this season has kind of flown by already, and yet it feels like every season really flies by. But you know what? As I always say, time flies when you're having fun. But before we get into the quarter mark of the NHL season, before we start running down the standings and talk about wow or worrisome, we got to hit up the traffic report. First, we've got a few headlines that we got to cover here. So let's see what the top headlines were this week. It's time to hit up the traffic report.
The I-80 Sports Traffic Report, where you can find all your news and notes from the week.
Well, we've got a pretty interesting week because in some cases, it was kind of a slow week, but in other cases, it was kind of a busy week. A lot of the news headlines really came at the beginning of the week from the last time that we recorded. We recorded last Tuesday of last week, and we really got more news over the few days after that than we did over the weekend and over the past day or so. We're recording on Monday. It's December 4th right now, so we got to talk about some of the stuff that we missed in the midst of everything that was said last week. So, starting right off the top, the first piece has fallen in Calgary. And that piece, as it turns out, was the first piece that we thought all along was going to fall, and that's Nikita Zadorov. Nikita Zadorov has been traded to the Vancouver Canucks for a few draft picks, and a lot of people have already said, well, that seems like a light return for Calgary, but the problem is Nikita Zadorov is a person that requested a trade. Once you have basically said, I don't want to play here anymore, that team really kind of loses all of its leverage, if you will. But I'm just looking up the details of this trade real quick, just so that way I can be a little bit more exact, just so that way we can talk about the picks that were also sent over as well. I believe that the picks itself, okay, there we go. In exchange for Nikita Zadorov, the Calgary Flames will be receiving a 2024 fifth-round pick and a 2026 third-round pick from the Vancouver Canucks. So again, Nikita Zadorov going to the Vancouver Canucks, going back to Calgary, a 2024 fifth-round pick and a 2026 sixth-round pick. Tom, immediate reactions here. Does Nikita Zadorov make the Vancouver Canucks better right now? And what does this mean for the Calgary Flames as we start, slowly inching our way towards the trade deadline?
Well, it means the first domino was falling for the Flames. Obviously, they're a rebuilding team now. I think a lot of people saw last year as a fluke, but it's showing right now that maybe it wasn't. Maybe they need to start rebuilding yet again, Calgary, which is crazy because they were a strong team for the last few years, and now all of a sudden they're back with the same problems again. Zadorov definitely does make the Canucks a stronger team. He definitely bolsters that third pair, and the Canucks have been having a good season so far. The Pacific Division's tight, and sometimes you need that type of defenseman in a tight division. So I think it's a great trade for the Canucks. Calgary, I mean, you get 2 picks out of the deal, but that's usually what you get now with guys who don't want to be anywhere anymore. You force the other team's hand, and that's really what happened in this one. But I think that is definitely a win for the Vancouver Canucks, and we'll see where it goes with this. I think that where they are now, they're in playoff positioning. I don't know if they're going to fall out of there. I think they'll probably stay where they are, second or third of the division. So it's going to be a solid pickup come playoff time for whoever they may potentially see in that first round if they get there.
I think overall it's a decent trade for the Vancouver Canucks. And the only thing that has me slightly worried in this trade is you had some people a few years ago, when the Vancouver Canucks picked up Oliver Ekman-Larsson from the Arizona Coyotes. You had a lot of people that like the idea of Tyler Myers and Oliver Ekman-Larsson together because they were big, imposing defensemen and more mobile at that. But that experiment did not last long, and it wasn't a very good experiment at all, as it turned out. I guess I only worry because you have a very similar situation here. Nikita Zadorov is a very different defenseman than Oliver Ekman-Larsson, but very similar sizing as well. And he's a guy that likely will be playing alongside a guy like Tyler Myers with the Vancouver Canucks. But overall, I like Nikita Zadorov's game. I think he's become a lot more defensively responsible over the past few years. The only thing I worry for the Vancouver Canucks is his inability to escape the penalty box from time to time, especially being a guy who you want out there on your penalty kill unit nine times out of 10. But he's a guy that is a go for the body first player instead of going for the puck first. So that always lends itself to being put in the penalty box for, being a little bit too rough to the touch on some players. But you know what? Vancouver's going to need some sandpaper on their team. And I think Nikita Zadorov is a great sandpaper-like player to go against the grain on a lot of teams and really kind of get ruffle feathers on the opposing team's side. In Calgary's case, you did what you could do. It was a trade where you knew you were not going to get that much in return because of the circumstance that Nikita Zadorov asked for a trade to begin with. So realistically speaking, to get a 5th round pick and a 3rd round pick later on, I think is perfectly fine. You could even use that 3rd round pick a few years from now and trade it off for another asset. It'd be really interesting to see what ends up happening in 2020, before 2026, before that 2026 NHL draft, to see if that draft pick is still in the possession of the Vancouver Canucks by that point, or not Vancouver Canucks, of the Calgary Flames by that point, and see if it's been used in a different trade to bring in more talent. So this is going to be a trade that is tough to evaluate at the moment because, Nikita Zadorov still really needs to get it going with Vancouver. And with Calgary, these are magic beans that they're getting at the moment, as Steve Dangle would say on TSN. But I think it's a decent trade for both sides. You did what you could do if you're a Calgary fan, and Vancouver gets an imposing defenseman. Much ado about nothing for the rest. Moreover, we have a minor-ish trade to announce as well because the Vancouver Canucks stayed relatively active. So after the fallout of Corey Perry in Chicago being ultimately terminated by the Chicago Blackhawks were left with a void in their starting lineup at wing. So they went out and made a trade with the Vancouver Canucks. They picked up Anthony Beauvillier for only, I believe, a 5th round pick. I need to double check on the year though. Tom,
conditional 5th round pick, 2024 draft.
Yes, that's what it was. Because it was a conditional 5th round pick. You're right. Tom, does this make up for the the missing piece that is Corey Perry in Chicago? And what does Anthony Beauvillier bring to the Chicago Blackhawks?
In my opinion, it doesn't. And it's no disrespect to Anthony Beauvillier. He's a good player, but he's not Corey Perry. Their stat lines have been fairly similar over the years, yes. But Anthony Beauvillier is like a guy like, in the past, a guy like, say, Johan Franzen. Fairly quiet during the regular season, but when he gets to the postseason, he really turns it on. The 2 runs he went on with the Islanders, the 2 years they lost Tampa in Eastern Conference Finals. Well, the 1 year was Eastern Conference Finals. The other year was just semifinal. Besides my point, Beauvillier is a big playoff performer. He's a guy that when you get in the playoffs, he's a guy you want out there. Here's the problem. Chicago Blackhawks don't have a chance in hell at making playoffs this year. I'm sorry, they're just not going to make it. They're tied for the worst team in the league right now with San Jose Sharks. And it's no disrespect to the Blackhawks. This is where everybody thought they would be. But it doesn't do anything for the Hawks. You just bring them in. But are the Hawks scheduled to go on any playoff runs this year? I don't think so. And that might have been a guy that Vancouver might have wanted to keep around, but it is what it is. So, I don't know. You feel bad for Beauvillier because that guy lives for the playoffs, and he probably won't be seeing them anytime soon.
Yeah, and for Vancouver, this was purely a cap move to bring in Nikita Zadorov. And it just kind of worked out that the Chicago Blackhawks were in need of another forward, and Anthony Beauvillier could easily fill that slot. The Chicago Blackhawks have plenty of cap to make up for that right now. Bringing in Anthony Beauvillier is a perfectly fine move. It's harmless when all is said and done. Chicago's certainly not playing for the playoffs right now, contrary to what ESPN might tell you about how amazing Connor Bedard is this year, because they literally have a Bedard watch on their website underneath like stats and standings, which I could talk for an hour about that one, but I won't. But I think Anthony Beauvillier coming over to Chicago, it's not a bad move. It's just kind of meh. He has 8 points in 23 games played so far, and he played his first game with Chicago over the weekend as well. And we'll see if it makes an impact in Chicago's lineup. He played about 17 minutes in his first game, and he could be seeing an increased role with the Chicago Blackhawks, especially with Taylor Hall being out for the remainder of the year. He could be a person that could potentially plug in with Connor Bedard maybe every other night to just kind of jumble things around and at least give him a forward that is capable of being a scoring threat if he wants to. But not a bad move for Vancouver. You get that 5th round pick that you gave up in the Nikita Zadorov trade. And yeah, I don't think it's a bad trade whatsoever. All right, we got to talk about this one on Tom. I know you got a lot of thoughts on this one. I'll let you go for as long as you want to on this one. But we thought we were done talking about Patrick Kane, but we're not. We're never done talking about Patrick Kane, because when we got the details on the contract last week with Patrick Kane signing with the Detroit Red Wings after being a free agent since the beginning of July, we didn't know the full details of that contract. All we knew is that it was for 1 year, $2.35 million. That's all we knew by the middle of the show. And the show, still no details, but it seems like there have been some details that have leaked since that episode. And there's a very interesting clause in here. So there's an unspoken, if not written, he has a full no trade clause in his contract. However, there is a clause that states that if the Detroit Red Wings are out of playoff contention or not in playoff contention by the trade deadline, Patrick Kane gets the final word on where he gets to be traded. So, Tom, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one. I know you have plenty of thoughts to this one. So, Tom, I'll turn it over to you here.
Well, I said it last week, and I'll say it again. He mentioned about how much he wanted to go somewhere, to go deep in the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup. Well, we know Detroit's probably not going to win the Stanley Cup, but they'll probably make the playoffs. But to say if things fall apart there and they don't make the playoffs, now he has a chance to force himself to go to a team like the Panthers or the Rangers, although I think the Rangers have had just about enough of them. And I think the rest of the league has had about enough of them too. Video evidence showed last week when he was on the ice at the Garden practicing with the Red Wings, I don't know. that right leg did not look like it was healed all the way. And I'm just wondering if this was a tactic done by his agent to say, hey, listen, go sign with Detroit. If your hip's not good enough, you'll still get your full $2 million for the year. And if they falter, you go somewhere else and try to win. Obviously, what a lot of people think is going to happen here, what I think is going to happen too, is that the Red Wings are going to make the playoffs, maybe at the best case scenario, win a round, and that's that. But it's ridiculous. Patrick Kane, is one of the greatest, if not the greatest American hockey player ever. I can't say he's not. He won his 3 cups in Chicago. He's won a scoring title. No other American has ever done that. But right now, it's something like I've never seen in the sport before. You've seen guys like Wayne Gretzky late in his career and Ray Bourque late in his career want to leave where they were to go try to win another Stanley Cup. Wayne Gretzky even took less money to go to the Rangers in 1996 to try to win another one. Sometimes you're thinking for yourself in terms of winning a cup and taking less money. But right now, Patrick Kane is just thinking of himself. He wants both. He basically wants to do something that's LeBron James-esque. He wants all the money he can have, but he wants to win a championship too. So he's trying to do both right now if Detroit doesn't work out. I don't know. Right now, I think Patrick Kane is only worrying about Patrick Kane. I don't think he cares if he wins in Detroit or not, as long as he gets his money. And if the Red Wings falter with him there, then he gets to go somewhere else. I also think, like I said, it might have been a tactic by Pat Brisson, his agent, saying, hey, listen, this surgery you got, nobody's ever come back from it. Go to Detroit and get your money just so you get paid for one last year of playing. But right now, this is ridiculous. This shows Patrick Kane is not committed to the Detroit Red Wings. He doesn't particularly care where they go. Obviously, if they make the playoffs, he'll be there. But like I said, are the Red Wings a better team with him there? Right now, yes. Are the Red Wings going to win a Stanley Cup? No, they're not. They're not going to win the Stanley Cup. They'll be lucky if they win a round. So right now, if I was a Red Wing fan, maybe I'd be a little upset. This guy, you're hoping to come in and make the team better, but if the team falters or falls out of contention, he can demand in February to say, oh, I don't want to play here anymore.
It certainly, yeah, I get it. It certainly feels like to me with Patrick Kane going to the Detroit Red Wings and him having the final say of where he was going all along in free agency, I got to feel like that him going to the Red Wings is very much okay, let's see where this team is and let's see how close they are to contention. Are they as close as Steve Yzerman says that they are? And this could merely be almost like like Detroit's audition for Patrick Kane's future services, if you will. And in the sense that if Patrick Kane wants to play one more or 2 more years after this, and Patrick Kane is convinced that, you know what, maybe in the next 2 years, the Red Wings can win. Now, I'm not saying for sure that they can. I think it's tough for anybody to predict the next 3 years of Stanley Cup champions, even this year alone. But that's a feel thing. And if there's anybody that has a feel of what a team has in a Stanley Cup contender, it's Patrick Kane. It's a guy that has a cabinet of Stanley Cups at the moment and wants to add another to his hardware. And you know what? Like I said before, just a few moments ago, this is the Detroit Red Wings audition to Patrick Kane for his future services. So let's see what happens. If the Red Wings are out of contention by then and Patrick Kane doesn't believe that they're anywhere close to where he thought they were, Patrick Kane's going to wipe the slate clean and go to where he wants to go. And it's not like his contract is a albatross to pick up for another team. If Patrick Kane is close to the same level of player that he was just coming out of Chicago, coming to New York, if he's even close to that, $2.35 million is a bargain for any team to take on. And you probably don't need to do a whole lot to even push money around to go and get his services. So it's really going to be interesting once we get to the trade deadline where Detroit's at, where Patrick Kane's mind is at. And you know what? We're probably just going to have to keep talking about Patrick Kane the rest of the year. So haha to people who are sick of him, like myself. Anyway, Tom, I'm going to go a little off the cuff here on you. I'm going to do a little improv here for a second, just because, you know, I have my phone next to me during shows all the time. And an interesting tweet just, well, I guess message from X just came across my screen, and I was curious. And it's a tweet from Pierre LeBrun, and a very verified source within the NHL, very reputable beat writer in the NHL. And I'm going to read this verbatim from Pierre LeBrun. The NHL updated governors today on the latest revenue projections for the season, and as expected, the league told owners that the salary cap for next season is projected to be around $87.7 million. Now, for reference, for those sitting at home, the current salary cap in the NHL as of this year is $83.5 million. So we'd be looking at an increase of $4.2 million overall. Tom, do you think that this is more of an increase than you expected, or right around what you were expecting going into next year?
No, I didn't. I thought that this is a very good increase. And it's funny you bring up Patrick Kane, because what if the Red Wings this year, which they probably won't, don't go far? And what if, he's out there playing the same game and he calls Pat Brisson calls Chris Drury next year and say the Rangers don't win it this year, or say Florida don't win it this year, and say, hey, cap went up. He'll take $3 million to go play for you. Or what if, I hate to use the Rangers again as an example, but what if they decide to go knocking on Ottawa's door if Ottawa's garbage by February, and they go, say, just for argument's sake, bring back Vladimir Tarasenko at half retained. And just for argument's sake, next year, they have the wiggle room to bring back a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko, or a guy out in Anaheim that they once had, maybe a guy like Frank Vatrano. This kind of helps cash-strapped teams who are contending. Teams like I like, as a Ranger fan, help us out in the summer, potentially, to keep them contending if they don't win this year. So this is actually very, very good news if you're a fan of a contending team like myself, and like yourself. Your team is still a contender until they're not anymore. So it's very good news if you're a fan of a team looking to get better, looking to win, and needing to spend that money to win. If you're a fan of a team that's not very good, I guess it's still good news anyway, but I think it's good news all around. It's good news all around for the league. To go up by $4 million is a good thing.
Yeah, this is a big win for the NHL if this turns out to be true, if the projection is as accurate as the league is telling its governors right now, is to be believed. And this would be a fantastic increase. This helps every team in the NHL, obviously, but it also helps the players as well in their own negotiations. This is a win not only for the league, but it's also a win for the NHLPA, for the NHL Players Association, because now they have a little bit more of a bargaining chip as well. I think immediately of teams that would immediately give certain players a pay increase, such as a Connor McDavid, to make him even more of the highest paid player in the NHL, get him, possibly even to that 14, 15 million mark per year, which would be absurd. But realistically, under the salary cap, now it's actually technically possible to request for him to request that service for any team when he potentially hits free agency in the next few years. Again, big win for the NHL if this turns out to be true. It's going to be a really interesting summer if it does indeed increase to $87.7 million. And you're going to see a lot of teams that would normally not be window shopping at the NHL trade deadline, as well as the NHL free agency, really start window shopping at that point and seeing what they can kind of pick up maybe as a longer term piece. So puts more eyes on the product in my mind. I think it's perfectly fine. We've got some minor extensions to cover real quick. And actually, I'm going to make these on the quicker side. So, because we're into nostalgia right now, we're going to bring in some quick hits. So, first things first, the Winnipeg Jets have extended Nino Niederreiter on a 3-year, I think it's like $3.25 million deal. I need to look up and see if that's.
I looked it up. Looks like a pretty fair deal for him. So, he'll be 34 by the time it ends. It's like the hit's not that bad.
No, the hit's not that bad at all, and he's a guy that's going to sit very nicely in the top 9 for Winnipeg over the next few years as well. Perfectly fine block for them. The Montreal Canadiens have also extended goaltender Sam Montembeault for 3 years as well at $3.25 million. Perfectly fine as well, especially because it's almost a certainty that Carey Price is done between the pipes for the remainder of his career and remainder of tenure with the Montreal Canadiens. Speaking of goaltenders, we had a goalie goal this past week. The Pittsburgh Penguins starting goaltender Tristan Jarry scored a goal on an empty net on Thursday night. And go back and watch that goal if you didn't get the chance. It is it's a beauty of a saucer from Tristan Jarry. Congratulations to him. And lastly, another congratulations is in order. Currently, right now, Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning is currently playing in his 1,000th career NHL game. I remember when he was drafted. It's wild to me that he's already playing in game number 1,000 for me.
Crazy.
Tom, your thoughts here on any of the quick hits that I just mentioned?
I mean, congrats to Hedman. I like the Niederreiter deal. Montembeault deal, I guess, is okay too. The Habs aren't going to be good for a while, though.
No. And this just locks up a consistent goaltender, especially as oh man, I'm blanking on who Caden Primo starts to kind of come into his own as well. So perfectly fine move. I see nothing wrong with it as a good 1A, 1B tandem for the Montreal Canadiens. All right. So our injury report last week was pretty wild. So hopefully it's not as wild, although we got a few things to talk about with my team coming up. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. The NHL injury report is coming courtesy of covers.com/sports/hockey/NHL/injuries for those that are wondering right now. But from when we last talked, the Anaheim Ducks have announced that Mason McTavish is going to be out on Tuesday night with an upper body injury. He missed his last game with that same upper body injury. He's not facing the Avalanche on Tuesday night, as it turns out, because of that. Moving on to the Arizona Coyotes, Travis Boyd is out indefinitely with an upper body injury. There's no timetable for his return, and he has not been placed on injury reserve as of yet. To the Buffalo Sabres, Jordan Greenway is questionable Tuesday night with an upper body injury. He also missed last game with an upper body injury, and it's still uncertain if he will hit the ice against the Detroit Red Wings on Tuesday. No update yet on Jack Quinn for the Buffalo Sabres, though. It still seems like the target is mid-December after rupturing his Achilles back in June. For the Calgary Flames, surprisingly, Jacob Markstrom has popped up on the questionable list. He's questionable on Tuesday night. He's dealing with a hand injury. He took a slap shot to his bare hand in practice today. So hopefully he's okay if you're a Calgary fan, but he's uncertain to suit up tomorrow night against the Minnesota Wild. So we'll see. Also questionable for Tuesday night is Elias Lindholm, who's been out with an illness, and it's still uncertain if he's going to face the Minnesota Wild as well. Going on down to the Chicago Blackhawks, feels like we were just talking about him because we were. Anthony Beauvillier is questionable Tuesday night and was held out of his last game as well due to a work visa issue. So still trying to clear up that work visa issue, and it's unknown if he's going to be active tomorrow night against the Nashville Predators. Looking on down to the Colorado Avalanche, Cale Makar is questionable Tuesday night with a lower body injury. He missed last game with a lower body injury. Uncertain if he's going to dress on Tuesday night's game against the Anaheim Ducks. Columbus Blue Jackets, Cole Sillinger is questionable Tuesday night as well with a lower body injury. He missed the last 2 games with the lower body injury. Uncertain if he faced the LA Kings on Tuesday night. Daniil Tarasov is also, we've got an update there. It's looking like a mid-December return after hitting the LTIR with a knee injury. And it's going to sideline him for at least the next week and a half, 2 weeks at this point. So it's looking like mid-December return for Daniil Tarasov. Detroit Red Wings. One thing we didn't get to mention in our recap and our top headlines, our hearts go out to Dylan Larkin after his upsetting loss from this past week. If you want to look it up, it's a trigger warning for those of you that are triggered by infant or prepubescent deaths. But if you want to look that up, you can, but our hearts go out to Dylan Larkin. He should be returning to action this week if he has not returned already. Florida Panthers. Where did I just go here? Josh Mahura is probable for Wednesday night after suffering a lower body injury much earlier in the season. And it's looking like he's been activated from injury reserve. He's fully recovered from his lower body injury. It's likely that he's going to make his return against the Dallas Stars on Wednesday night. Blake Lizotte is out indefinitely with an undisclosed injury right now, and there's no timetable yet for his return. He has not hit injury reserve as well during that time. Zach Bogosian for the Minnesota Wild is questionable Tuesday night against the Calgary Flames. He missed last game with an upper body injury, and it's looking like he's still trying to come over that. To the Montreal Canadiens, big injury to disclose here. Alex Newhook is going to be out multiple months with a high ankle sprain. He has hit the injury reserve. Because of that, he's expected to miss 10 to 12 weeks of action, looking like an early March return for Alex Newhook at the earliest. Updates as we get them for that one. Nashville Predators, Alex Carrier is out indefinitely with an upper body injury, and he's considered week to week moving forward. To the New Jersey Devils, a couple things to talk about here. So Eric Howla is questionable for Tuesday night after missing the last 3 games with a lower body injury, and it's unclear if he's going to suit up Tuesday night against the Vancouver Canucks, but it's looking likely based on what I saw from practice today. Some bigger injuries to discuss in just a second, but Brendan Smith is eligible to return Thursday night after serving a 2-game suspension for slashing. It's looking like he's eligible to return against the Seattle Kraken on Thursday night. Out indefinitely for the New Jersey Devils, Thomas Nosek has been assigned to the injury reserve. He underwent foot surgery. He suffered a setback in his recovery from his upper body injury. And he's undergone foot surgery, and it remains unseen when he's going to return to the lineup at this point. And also out indefinitely, unfortunately, is top defenseman Dougie Hamilton. He has wound up on the injury reserve after having surgery to repair a torn pectoral muscle, and it's unclear when he's going to return to the lineup. That's looking like a long-term injury. I would be the person to venture a guess of March or April for return for Dougie Hamilton, which Devils are going to get a good hard look at former number 2 overall pick Simone Nemec at the moment too. So Devils fans, that's one thing to look forward to. Plus the fact that $9.5 million now comes off the salary cap. Could be an interesting trade coming down the pipeline for the New Jersey Devils. That's just me being a guessing man at the moment, but that's just me just speculating. New York Islanders, Matthew Barzal is questionable Tuesday night with an illness. He missed last game with an illness. Unknown if he's going to suit up against the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday night. Nothing new to report for the New York Rangers, unless I'm missing something there, Tom, right?
No, everything still Hedel and Kakko out indefinitely. No new news on either one of them.
Sounds good. Ottawa Senators Ridley Greig is probable Tuesday night after coming off the long-term injury reserve with a lower body injury. It's likely he's going to make his return against the New York Rangers on Tuesday night. I think we already covered Philadelphia Flyers. Noah Cates is out until late January with a foot injury. I believe we covered that last time. But just in case we didn't, he's shut down right now with a broken foot, and he's going to remain sidelined for at least the next 6 to 8 weeks of that time. Pittsburgh Penguins' Noel Acciari is out Wednesday night with a lower body injury. He's missed the last 2 games with a lower body injury, so he's going to be sitting out Wednesday night's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Out indefinitely for the Pittsburgh Penguins as well as Matt Nieto. He is on the injury reserve list as of right now with the lower body injury, and he's going to be out for an undetermined length of time. Updates as we get them. We got a bunch to report here for the San Jose Sharks after they did quite a bit of damage over the weekend. Not going to lie. They erupted for like 11 goals in 2 games, which where the heck did that come from? And it also came at the expense of New Jersey Devils and New York Rangers. The only difference
Rangers won at least.
I was about to say the only difference was the Rangers at least won that game. But whatever. Ryan Carpenter is out indefinitely with an undisclosed injury. He's on the injury reserve list with that undisclosed injury. No timetable for return. Nico Sturm is questionable Tuesday night. He missed his last game against the New York Rangers with a lower body injury, and it's uncertain if he suits up against the New York Islanders Tuesday night. And out indefinitely is Luke Kunin, and he is on the injury reserve with an upper body injury. No timetable for return as of yet. Seattle Kraken, 1 injury to report here. Jaden Schwartz has landed on the injury reserve with a lower body injury. He's projected to miss at least 6 weeks of action. It's looking like a mid-January return for Jaden Schwartz at the moment. Nothing new to report for the St. Louis Blues. Nothing new to report for the Tampa Bay Lightning. However, Connor Sheary has been placed on the injury reserve list for an upper body injury. It's looking like he's going to remain sidelined until mid-December. To the Toronto Maple Leafs, Mark Giordano is out indefinitely with a fractured finger. He's considered week to week moving forward. He has been placed on the injury reserve list. Ilya Samsonov is questionable Tuesday night after he missed the last game with an illness, and it's unknown if he's going to play on Thursday night against the Ottawa Senators. Looking on down to the Vancouver Canucks, Pius Suter is still out indefinitely with a lower body injury. The difference from last week, though, when we reported it, he is now on the injury reserve list as of earlier this week. To the Vegas Golden Knights, got a few to report here. Adin Hill is going to be out tonight, Monday night, with a lower body injury, and he's not going to face the St. Louis Blues. He also missed his last game with the same lower body issue. Shea Theodore is out indefinitely with an upper body injury, and he has now been placed, since last time we talked, he's been placed on a long-term injury reserve list, and he's recovering from a surgery to correct an upper body injury. Also out indefinitely is Alec Martinez as of right now. He's wound up on the injury reserve list with a lower body injury. No timetable yet for return. So Golden Knights are a little banged up at the moment. You hate to see it.
We'll talk about them a little later.
Yep. You hate to see that, honestly. Charlie Lindgren for the Washington Capitals is out Tuesday night with, he's going to be probable Monday night after recovering from an illness. He missed last game because of that illness, and it's predicted that he is going to be able to suit up against the Arizona Coyotes. Update on Max Pacioretty. He's still on the injury reserve list from recovering from a torn Achilles, but it's expected that he is going to make his season debut in the next few weeks. So more updates on that once we get them. And last but not least, Winnipeg Jets, Vladislav Namestnikov has been sidelined with a lower body injury, and it's looking like he's going to remain out until the middle of December. So a lot to unpack there, a lot to talk about, but we can unpack that also in Wow or Worrisome, which we got to talk about the quarter century mark in the NHL here. The fact that we have reached the quarter point of the NHL season. So first and foremost, let's talk about some standings. Let's just go run through 1 through 8 in each division right now. Talk about where teams are at, and then we can kind of go from there. I'm currently using ESPN.com for my source for the standings right now. It does not include tonight as well, but let's run through this. Starting with the Atlantic Division, 1 through 8 right now. We've got Boston in first place. The Florida Panthers in second place, trailing 7 points behind the Boston Bruins right now. Detroit Red Wings are third. The Toronto Maple Leafs are fourth. Tampa Bay Lightning fifth. Montreal Canadiens sixth. The Buffalo Sabres in seventh. And trailing way far behind right now in the Atlantic Division, the Ottawa Senators with only 18 points in the standings right now.
Sense.
That's wild to me. But I certainly have my theories on that one. To the Metropolitan Division here, this is actually a lot tighter than this is going to seem. So it might seem like things are way out of reach right now, but like you have between the second place team and the last place team, a separation of only 9 points in the standings. So the Metropolitan Division is living up to expectations right now, to say the least. But right now, first through eighth right now, we've got the New York Rangers in first place with 37 points. They're tied for the conference lead with the Boston Bruins right now with 37 points overall in the standings. The Carolina Hurricanes are second right now, trailing by 8 points right now behind the New York Rangers. In third place, we got the Washington Capitals. Also tied with them right now are the New York Rangers, as well as the Philadelphia Flyers.
I mean, the Islanders.
Oh yeah, the Islanders rather. But Islanders, Flyers, and Capitals are all tied right now with 26 points in the standings in the Metropolitan Division. Coming in sixth place right now is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Right behind them, hot on their tails, is the New Jersey Devils. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, to nobody's surprise, is picking up the rear in eighth place with 20 points in the standings. Looking on down to the Western Conference now, we're starting with the Central Division here. Again, things are pretty tight in the top four, I'll say right now, or even top five. But it gets a little bit worse as we go along. The Colorado Avalanche right now are in first place, to nobody's surprise right now, with 32 points in the standings. The Dallas Stars are sitting 1 point behind them in second place. Sitting 3 points behind the Dallas Stars in third place right now is the Winnipeg Jets. Separated by 2 points there in fourth place is the Arizona Coyotes. Surprisingly, separated by a point right now in fifth place, the St. Louis Blues, refusing to die. Also separated by a point from the St. Louis Blues right now in sixth place is the Nashville Predators. In seventh place is the Minnesota Wild, which we didn't even talk about before. New head coach for the Minnesota Wild, John Hines, is now the head coach of the Minnesota Wild. Where have I heard this bad story before? Anyway, in last place, to nobody's surprise as well, the Chicago Blackhawks sitting with a dismal 14 points in the standings, but no one was surprised. To the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights are currently sitting in first place with 36 points overall. They are the best team in the Western Conference. I'm not that surprised, but I'm going to be interested to see what happens with all these injuries piling up for the Vegas Golden Knights. Sitting behind them and 3 points behind them is Vancouver Canucks in second place. In third place right now, the LA Kings. And then we have a wide separation here between third place and fourth place right now in the Pacific Division. We have a separation of 8 points. So there is a steep drop off after the top three of Vegas, Vancouver, and LA in the Pacific Division. In fourth place right now is the Calgary Flames with 23 points. Then sitting a point behind them in fifth is the Seattle Kraken. Anaheim Ducks picking up sixth place, 2 points behind the Seattle Kraken in sixth place. In seventh place, the Edmonton Oilers with 19 points. They would be one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference if they were in the Eastern Conference. And in last place, again, to no one's surprise, the San Jose Sharks, tied right now for Chicago Blackhawks for the worst team, not only in the Western Conference, but also in the entire NHL with 14 points. So, Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you for a little bit. Wow or worrisome, which teams right now are absolutely wowing you, and what teams really need to turn things around quickly in your mind if they're going to have any hope at playoff contention?
Well, guess what? My favorite team is wowing me. The Rangers. They dropped a 5-1 decision of Buffalo last Monday night. The score was a lot more widespread than it seemed. The game really should have been 3-1. Really, my only gripe with Peter Laviolette this year is when he's down by multiple goals, he panics and pulls the goalie way too early. That's why some of the games where it's looked like they've gotten blown out, they really haven't gotten blown out. Nice to see Mika Zibanejad start scoring goals again, by the way. He's in the middle of a 6-point in his 6-game point streak. Sorry. Honorable mention right now to another team who's playing very well this week, Arizona Coyotes. Winners of 4 in a row and in playoff position. I didn't think they would be this good. I really didn't think so. But they're having themselves a nice little run here, the Coyotes. When you're talking about teams who have some cause for concern right now, the one team who's playing right now who honored Victor Hedman tonight is Tampa Bay Lightning. They've basically been a short thing for as long as anybody can remember, the last few years. Their roster right now, it's not terribly thin. It's seen the effects of them going for it over the past few years. Granted, they won the 2 cups in a row in 20 and 21, but it took them a bit to get there. There were other years here, 2018 comes to mind, where a lot of people thought they should have won. And the problem is with the losses in 2018 and 2019, they really, really went for it and gave up picks and prospects to win the 2 cups, like anybody else would have done. The problem is the team's not getting any younger. And with not a lot in the system, it's potentially maybe time to let some names walk. Steven Stamkos is going to be a free agent this offseason. Maybe they'll let him walk. Maybe some bigger name, they've let some role guys go like Andre Palat, Tyler Johnson, Ryan McDonough, and Alex Killorn. Maybe it might be time to Separate with John Cooper, although I don't think they're there yet. Maybe another year. Maybe they have to think about that. But right now, the Bolts, they lost 4 in a row. They're winning right now. But it might be time, especially with the Detroit Red Wings playing a lot better this year, it might be time to panic a little bit in Tampa about them potentially not making the playoffs. Because right now you have Boston who's killing it. You have Detroit playing well, Florida playing well, and Toronto kind of been up and down, but more up than down. So you really got to think about it. What's going to happen in Tampa this year? Especially over in the Metro, too, with the Washington Capitals playing better than a lot of people thought they would. So Tampa's a little bit of a cause for concern, for me at least.
Yeah, so a couple teams that have been absolutely wowing me. I mean, yeah, all right, I'll admit it. The New York Rangers. I've got to talk about this for sure. The New York Rangers have been, in my mind, since a few weeks ago, if we're talking about like teams that are tied right now in the Eastern Conference between the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers on the other side, which team is impressing me more? The New York Rangers far and away right now. And the New York Rangers have been one of the best teams, if not the best team in hockey for the last 2 weeks. And it's been no secret either. They have really turned on the Jets and really started lapping teams over the last few weeks. And it's been off of really steady play on the defense, hard-nosed hockey on offense. It's a reason why they have a plus 20 goal differential right now. And those of you that have been watching our shows for a while now, you understand how much goal differential really matters to me, because that really is the mark of a really good team and a team that maybe should be concerned that maybe their spot in the standings might be flagging. I'm not worried about the New York Rangers. They're at a plus 20 goal differential, and that's been on the backs of really stellar goaltending, not only from Igor Shesterkin, but Jonathan Quick, his backup, has really picked up the pieces in his absence as well. Now, as Tom mentioned, to a fault, Peter Laviolette, the head coach of the New York Rangers, has this tendency to pull goalies early. But you know what? It's working. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Peter Laviolette is certainly a good evaluator when it comes to where he sees problems mid-game. And I trust Peter Laviolette to keep making those decisions for the New York Rangers.
Worked in Nashville the other night.
It did. Absolutely. Other teams that are wowing me lately, I'm definitely going to agree with Tom here. The Arizona Coyotes, and I'm not surprised either. They have a very talented lineup, and it's been on the backs of somebody who I'm just going to outright preview for one of my players of the week. Connor Ingram, between the pipes for the Arizona Coyotes, has been one of the best goaltenders in the entire league over the last few weeks. And he's been stellar, sporting a well over 920 save percentage to start off this year. He's been very good, and platooning with their other goaltender, Vejmelka, as well. I'm blanking on his first name, unfortunately. But Arizona might have a nice little team that they got going here, and they might really really turn some heads. Another team that's really been wowing me two teams that have still been wowing me, Vancouver Canucks and the LA Kings, right smack dab in the middle of the Pacific Division. I think so long as Vancouver can really kind of pick up their pace of play over the next few weeks, while Vegas is really dealing with these injuries, we could see Vancouver maybe climb the standings in the Pacific Division over these next few weeks. This is the time for Vancouver to shine, and they really need to pick it up. They have the best goal differential in the entire NHL right now with a plus 32 overall. They have 96 goals for, which is the best right now in the Pacific Division. They don't have the best goals against right now. That actually belongs to the Los Angeles Kings, who currently sit with the second best goal differential in the entire NHL with plus 31 rating. LA can do no wrong on the road right now. They're 9-0 on the road. I'm pretty sure LA is thinking about selling their arena so that way they can just play away for the rest of the season at this point, because they have just been absolute road warriors. But that's always been the mark of the LA Kings since 2012, 2014 in their last 2 Stanley Cup wins. So I feel like we're getting a resurgence of shades of like an older, grittier LA Kings team. And it also helps with that center depth down the middle. They have one of the best center depths down the middle, and it's showing in just their absolute dominance in play lately. Honorable mention also to the St. Louis Blues. I feel like they have really turned it on as of this last week and really picked up the pieces really nicely. And we're going to kind of see where they go in the Central Division. I had no expectations for the St. Louis Blues coming into the season end. Well, I still don't. So it's kind of nice to see St. Louis doing relatively well. Cause for concern. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned as a Devils fan. I'm certainly not ready to give up on this season like a lot of other fans I've seen in public forums jumping to the rafters for, which I don't understand at all. The season is so young that I don't think there's time to worry. There's something really, really interesting to come of the Dougie Hamilton injury, which comes at a really awful time. But I think it's a good time also for Dougie to kind of get his head straight on the defensive side of the game, because I don't know if he's been dealing with this pectoral issue for a while. Maybe that's why he hasn't been able to play defensively to his peak. But he was, over the last few weeks, one of the worst players in his own zone on the New Jersey Devils. And when you're paying $9.5 million a year for a guy for those services, you expect results. And offensively, there's never been a doubt about his ability in the offensive zone, but defensively, he needs to pick it up lately. And he's going to get plenty of time while recovering from this torn pectoral muscle to really kind of sit and evaluate his defensive side of the game. But we have a really interesting situation here for the New Jersey Devils, because if Dougie Hamilton is ready for playoff time, if the Devils are sitting in the playoff position by the time March rolls around, maybe Dougie takes his time coming back from injury. Wait until the beginning of the playoffs to come back. And we kind of have a similar Tampa Bay Lightning situation where maybe you have a little bit of cap circumvention going on there. We're going to get a good hard look at Simone Nemec, which a lot of fans have been shouting to the rooftops to finally see what this kid can do. And now you're really going to get that. He played, I think, 21 minutes in his debut game on Saturday. He had some defensive mistakes in there, but it's his first game with the NHL team, and he didn't get any reps with any of the starting defensemen. So with a few practices under his belt, I think we're going to start seeing Simone Nemec really get comfortable as a member of New Jersey Devils. He had 2 points in his first NHL game, 2 assists, and maybe we start seeing more of that going forward. Maybe we start seeing more of Luke Hughes really starting to step up, as well as he starts to adapt to the defensive side of the game, who has really taken a positive turn lately in his own zone as of late. I'm not worried about New Jersey Devils. They're going to start getting healthy at the right time. Bringing, Timo Meier getting healthy and coming back on Saturday night is huge. And I think that's going to, start getting better as of tomorrow night against the Vancouver Canucks. And tomorrow's going to be a real test. I mean, they're facing a hot Vancouver Canucks team, sporting also one of the, if not the best defenseman in the league in Quinn Hughes. And going to be interested to see where the New Jersey Devils go right now. But certainly, if you look at the standings, black and white, yeah, you're concerned as a New Jersey Devils fan for sure. But I'm going to be curious to see what Tom Fitzgerald does with this newfound cap space to try to make improvements to the team. Do you go and get a high-flying defenseman if you really want to? Do you call up the Calgary Flames and said, hey, what do you do? What's your best offer on Chris Tanev right now? Maybe you go and do that. Maybe you call up a team and see if you can, get a upgrade in net if you're really not sold on what Vitek Vanacek and Akira Schmid are offering you right now. But I'm not worried yet. Maybe other Devils fans are worried, but we'll see what happens. I can tell you a few teams that should be worried right now, and that's the Ottawa Senators. I don't know what's going on there, but I can tell you exactly what I think is really going wrong there. Here's what gives me a little glimmer of hope right now if you're an Ottawa Senators fan, and that's the fact that their goal differential isn't awful, honestly. Goaltending has not really been the issue this year. They only have allowed 63 goals against. That hasn't been a big issue for them, surprisingly enough. Goaltending's not the issue. I came in ready to say, it's the goaltending. It's the goaltending. It's not. You've got guys that are more than capable in their top 9 that can score. 64 goals on the season is inexcusable right now. They are far and away the worst goals for in the Atlantic Division. They have to pick that up. They got to start finding the back of the net. And that falls on the backs of Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, who has been a fantastic center in the NHL this season. Brady Tkachuk needs to pick it up, though. He needs to spend less time in the penalty box, less time getting all rowdy and riled up, and start finding the back of the net more and spend less time in the penalty box. That's the only way that's going to help the Ottawa Senators. Another team that should obviously be concerned right now is the Edmonton Oilers. They still don't have any answers. Their goals for is fine, but they need an upgrade in net in the worst way possible. And I've heard recommendations for them calling up the Boston Bruins and seeing if they can get Linus Ullmark, which I think is a big fat chance at this point. I doubt that something like that can happen, but you got to think creatively here to try to pull yourself out of this one. Edmonton is in dire straits right now, and I'm really worried for where this goes.
You know what, though? They've been getting better since the coaching change. They won their last 4 in a row. I mean, I can't consider them dead yet in December. I mean, if it's February and they're still where they are, then yeah, but they've gotten better since the coach change. They won 4 in a row, slowly creeping back up.
Yeah. Another team that's won 3 in a row since their coaching change is the Minnesota Wild. Maybe the change over to John Hines is what this team needed to kind of wake up a little bit. And maybe we start seeing an improvement in the offense with the change over to John Hines as the head coach. But right now I'm concerned for Minnesota because you're seeing teams like Arizona and St. Louis, more specifically Arizona, playing way better than the Minnesota Wild, and Minnesota fans were more than convinced coming into the season. Oh yeah, we're better than Arizona. Oh yeah, we're better than Winnipeg. Both teams are 3rd and 4th right now, respectively.
And that guy you let walk is tearing it up in LA right now.
Yeah. It's definitely cause for concern for Minnesota fans at the moment, but winning 3 in a row right now, it's certainly a sign of life for Minnesota fans. And we'll see where Minnesota ends up in the next few weeks. We'll certainly monitor them as we go forward as well. But to round out my Devils discussion there, I'm not worried. I don't think anybody should be worried just yet. All right, let's talk some high performance as we round out this episode of IID Sports, our Week 6 recap. Let's talk about our players of the week. It's time to talk high performance.
Your I-80 Sports High Performance Players of the Week.
All right, Tom, I'll turn it to you first. Players of the week, and go.
Well, 2 homer alerts here. First one is Artemi Panarin. To tell you the truth, 7 points in his last 5 games. Hat trick last night against the Sharks. I think Artemi Panarin right now has got to be your front runner for the Hart Trophy. I think he has to be. The way he's playing and the criticism he received the last 2 years, he's got to be. Quick one here for Arizona. Connor Ingram, won his last 4 in a row for Arizona. Big reason why they won it. And another bit of a homer alert here. Adam Fox came back last week against Detroit Red Wings for the Rangers, and he's had 4 points in his last 3 games. Hasn't skipped a beat, Adam Fox. He may be in the running for the Norris if he keeps it up. We'll see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll be a little bit of a homer here as well. And if the Devils can find their way out of the bottom of the Metropolitan Division and find themselves in the playoff position, we could be talking about another player in the tri-state area that could be up for a Hart Trophy. And that's Jack Hughes. Since returning in his last 6 games, 8 points in his last 6 games, 3 goals, 5 assists. He's been just as good or better since returning from injury, and he's made a real difference for the New Jersey Devils as of late. Other players I want to highlight here, Connor McDavid really coming back from the dead as well, and really bringing Edmonton back from the dead too. 16 points in his last 6 games. He has 4 goals and 12 assists in that time. He's been Connor McDavid. He's been just awesome as always. Another former Hart winner, Nikita Kucherov for Tampa Bay Lightning, 13 points in his last 7 games as well. And ironically, not all goals, 11 assists in that span of time, really getting some helpers as well. And lastly, a guy who probably should have won a Hart Trophy by this point, but still hasn't, Nathan McKinnon, 11 points in his last 8 games for Colorado. Certainly a reason why Colorado has been at the top of the Central Division as of always, but just fantastic play from all. Tom, I'm going to blame you here. You stole my pick for goaltending on that one. You swooped him right out from under me. But as we round out this episode of IID Sports, it's time for our question of the day. And we were talking about our quarter century mark recap. And well, I think it makes the question of the week pretty easy this week. Tom, I'll start with you. Who's the team to beat in the East, and who's the team to beat in the West?
Well, right now in the East, it's the Rangers and the Bruins. Both are running away with it. I don't think anybody expected the East to be this bad where you had 2 obvious teams running away with it, and the rest kind of just jumbled in together, sans the Ottawa Senators. At the same time, the Rangers and the Bruins, there's still some tweaking that needs to be done with both teams. The Bruins need a center. The Rangers right now, I got a lot of 2012 vibes with this team. Great goaltending. Defense is set. They need another top 6 right winger. With Ottawa being so bad, maybe it's time to think about a reunion of Vladimir Tarasenko. With Anaheim lying in the weeds, maybe it's time to think about bringing back Frank Vetrano. But them as constructed right now, going to the playoffs like this is not going to work with a guy with Blake Wheeler or Johnny Brzezinski in the first line right wing spot. It's not going to work. Maybe bring Brendan Northman up. Give him a look for a game. I don't know. But both of the teams are running away with it, but both of the teams need some tweaks if they want to win the Stanley Cup. Now, when you get out to the West, it gets a little more head-scratching, a little more interesting. Now, you talk about Vegas, defending champs, on the top of the Pacific Division, but they're coming down recently. They haven't been as good as they were. The problem is that Pacific Division that we thought they were going to run away with is a lot tighter than I thought it was going to be. 5 points separate them, the Vancouver Canucks, and the LA Kings. And who else did we talk about? The Edmonton Oilers. Winners of 4 in a row since the coaching change, slowly creeping their way back up. Out in the Central, you got your 2 obvious ones, Colorado Avalanche and your Dallas Stars. Makar is out for the Avs right now. The Avs blew a lead in Anaheim Saturday night and lost, and got pretty much outclassed by the LA Kings last night. I still think Colorado and Dallas in the Central, the 2 spots are theirs. I don't think it's going to be any different than that. But the thing is with Colorado and Dallas, where one team has a deficiency, the other team has a strength. But that again could be a problem. Come April, come the playoffs, the West may be a bloodbath. And if it's a well-rested Rangers or Bruins coming out of the East with the tweaks that they need, we may have a short final. But if I had to pick a team right now in the West who's a favorite, the hungriest team, and the team with the most approved, and a team that has the number of the Colorado Avalanche, I got to go with the Dallas Stars. The Stars beat the Avs in the bubble. The Stars are very hungry to beat Vegas. A lot of people thought they should have beat Vegas last year, including myself. So if I had to pick a team right now in the West, it's the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I mean, the East, I'll agree with you. It's pretty set at the moment with the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers. I'll be really curious to see where we're at the All-Star break, though, where other teams are, as teams are getting healthy, as maybe some potential moves get made in the Metropolitan Division, in the Atlantic Division, and really kind of see where things are at. But it's absolutely the New York Rangers and Boston Bruins right now. But if you had if you had to put me on the spot and say one team that is the team to beat right now, it's the New York Rangers. And it pains me to say that, but it's true. They are top to bottom a better team right now than the Boston Bruins. And the deciding factor to me is that center depth. I mean, the Boston's not going to win without center depth, and they need a bona fide number 1 center right now. And we'll see if they get that. In the West, it does become a little bit muddier. My obvious pick right now of team to beat, is the Vegas Golden Knights. They haven't really had that real hangover to start this year that we thought, but now it's starting to peek through with injuries to Aiden Hill, injuries to Alec Martinez, injuries to Shea Theodore. 3 very, very, very important players to the Vegas Golden Knights. Now you got players on that team that are also performing right now and performing very well. Jack Eichel has been very good in his last 6 games with 8 points in his last 6 games. So he's really picking up the pieces for Vegas very nicely. Alex Pietrangelo has also been very good so far in the back end and picking up the pieces for Shea Theodore and Alec Martinez in their absence. But that depth is going to hurt later on if these injuries persist and if more injuries persist over the next few years. When is Mark Stone going to need to get his maintenance time for his degenerative back issues? When is that going to creep up? That's going to probably creep up sooner rather than later for the Vegas Golden Knights. That's an obvious concern. You've got the Vancouver Canucks and LA Kings hot on their tail. And I'd be more apt to say that those are 2 teams that, are absolutely teams to beat right now. And then, on the other side of the coin, you've got the Colorado Avalanche and Dallas Stars that are neck and neck right now in the Central Division. But don't sleep on the Winnipeg Jets just yet, or the Arizona Coyotes. The Arizona Coyotes, who are an absolute dark horse and are out to prove every single team wrong right now playing out of Mullet Arena. You want to talk about a team that's hungry right now. It's a team that really hasn't sniffed anything over the last number of years, and that's the Arizona Coyotes. They got a quick sniff and a quick whiff in the bubble in 2020, you got to think that that's still lingering in their memories for some of those players on that team. So Arizona is a team that I think is a very intriguing team to me going forward, especially now with the emergence of Connor Ingram in net and just being more sure-footed on the offensive side of the coin and the defensive side of the coin. But if you ask me who the team to beat right now in the West, it's the Vegas Golden Knights until proven otherwise. And then if I had to pick like a 1B as Vegas starts to fall, I'm going to actually go to the LA Kings. I like their depth up and down. I think they're just solid up and down right now. The only question mark that I really realistically have a little bit is maybe that goaltending going forward. But if that's realistically the only big concern I have with such a stellar offense and defense right now and center depth down the middle, it might be able to make up for that. It really made up for the Vegas Golden Knights last year. So it could work for the LA Kings as well. But as always, guys, what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree with our takes? Let us know down below in the comments section. And we would love to have that conversation with you down below. Hit the like button if you like our content tonight as well. And make sure you subscribe down below, youtube.com/i80sports, and hit the bell notifications so that way you know when each of our videos go live each week. And if you're still on X, make sure you follow us down below at i80_sports NHL. And if you guys follow us already, thank you guys so much because we greatly value all of your support. But as per usual, less talky, more watching. So that being said, I'm Brian. He's Tom. I'm going to learn directions in this span of time as well. This has been yet another episode of NHL on i80 Sports. So that was perfect timing because one of my light bulbs just blew.
Ah, wonderful.
And now I'm in the dark. But all right, I'm going to go fix that issue. And yeah, cover athlete. Who do we want to use?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Trying to think.
Have we ever used Victor Hedman?
I'm down with that. We could use Victor Hedman or Nikita Zadorov.
Yeah, either or, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll let you mull it over and I'll let you decide.
All right.
All right, man. Just send a text to Bob in the morning.
All right, we'll do.
Sounds good, man. Have a good night.
All right, catch you later. Bye.
Later.